and Dulux Assurance, expert ka promise.
The Bank Nifty is the one which is weak, down about 200 points. Now the Nifty is getting slightly worse, down about 40 points.
Absolutely flat markets. There's about a 2-odd point change lower on the Nifty.
The Nifty is virtually at the day's high.
Indian markets seeing a sharp recovery from lows led by banks and Reliance. Frontline indices are at the day's highs. Once again, huge, big volume-led gain across the board. 17,828 is where the Nifty finally left off.
You're entering the future-ready CNBC-TV18 EBIX Cash Studio.
Hello and welcome to the CNBC-TV18 EBIX Cash Studios. You're with us here on Markets Today, the show where we track the 6 hours of the day's trading action in 5 headlines. I am Prashant Nair. With me, my colleague Sonal Bhutra. Let's, before we sort of get to what happened in the day, let me just quickly run our viewers through the headlines which mattered. Here's headline number 1. Markets see a sharp recovery in the second half. Nifty and Sensex end over 0.5% higher. Reliance and banks lead from the front. Mid-cap index ends at record highs.
Major oil-producing countries decide not to raise output crude source to a 7-year high. ONGC rallies 11%. Other OMCs also gain on the hopes of inventory gains.
Disruptions in China spell higher demand and prices for non-China dependent Indian chemical players like Aarti Industries and Deepak Nitrite. Stocks rally over 3% each.
Bharti Airtel and Vodafone Idea soar after the Supreme Court grants the Department of Telecom time to revise the 40,000 crore rupee one-time spectrum charge. Next hearing on November 17th.
Reliance hits record highs after Morgan Stanley gives the stock a thumbs up. Tata Power gains 6% on higher prospects of MSCI inclusion. Gujarat Gas also gains on price increases.
All right, those are the top headlines that we are tracking at this hour. Of course, we'll speak to them in greater detail. Let's take a look at how the markets fared in today's trade. But before we do that, here's the lineup of what we have in store for you. It's a packed show today. In Market Opinion, we have with us Shane Oliver of AMP Capital, Prateek Gupta of Kotak Securities, and Jahangir Aziz of JP Morgan. From markets to corporate voices now, Maulik Mehta, ED and CEO of Deepak Nitrite, and Rajendra Gogri, Chairman and Managing Director of Aarti Industries, will be joining us with their view on China's power outage. But before we get to all of that, Prashant, interesting day, sharp recovery in the second half. What did you make of the day?
All through the day, Sonal, we were saying that the rest of the markets were not doing well and India was standing out. But that was true for a while. It's just that I think the green here rubbed off everywhere else as well. Because, as you look at markets now, you realize that, actually a lot of Asia, which was flat to lower, picked up pace. Actually, there's a lot of green in Asia now. By the end of it, Europe is higher. US futures are not doing all that badly. So at one point, India was sort of the lone warrior, but it had company later on. What did well? It's basically, once again, the old economy stocks which really were topping the charts. Government companies, CPSE stocks, the PSU bank stocks, energy, a fair bit of overlap there. Infrastructure, metals did well in the first half and they kind of sort of dropped off in the second half, not really there. Pharma is the other one, which, again, in terms of what did well yesterday, did not do well today. So metals and pharma, but still higher, broadly higher. IT has come back into rotation once again. The index lost about 6-7% last week. Infosys, TCS, etc. doing well by close. Broader markets, there was a little bit of cool off. The small cap index at the high point, at one point, actually, not the high point of the day, was up 1%. The mid cap index was up almost 3/4. There was a little bit of cool off there, but no such problems for the Nifty. And of course, led by names like ONGC, etc., where, stocks are still cheap. ONGC at current prices, at current oil prices, I think it's still available at about 4 times earnings. So, if the point, of course, is that commodities have to stay where they are for it to start to translate into earnings. There was, of course, the gas price increase as well. But ONGC, of course, is a story which we will discuss a little later here on. In terms of stocks, Sonal, tell us more.
Oh, a long list today, Prashant. And you spoke about the energy names, the PSU space. So ONGC, of course, tops my list. We had IndusInd Bank came out with their Q2 update. That looked good. So the stock was up 4.5%. Coal India, again, from the PSU basket. In IOC, expectation of higher inventory gains. That stock was up. IOC and, of course, Reliance, 17.5 lakh crore in terms of market cap at a record high yet again. So that stock was in focus. In the losing list, not many names, and the losses are not as huge as well. So Cipla and Hindalco did see some profit taking in trade today. In the broader markets, a lot of movers. From the start of trade, we saw that advance decline ratio was in the favor of advances. So the movers out there included the likes of Tata Power, we had AB Fashion and Retail, Piramal Enterprises, of course, Aarti Industries, the chemical theme continues, HPCL, Deepak Nitrite, JNFC, GSFC, JK Paper, because they said the demand is back to pre-COVID levels. They've taken price hikes of around 4 to 5% as well. On the losing side, some profit taking in the real estate names. We had DLF, Godrej Properties, all of them down anywhere between 2 to 3%. India Cements as well. Ipca Labs also, after a sharp run, saw some profit taking. And Ipca IndiaMart, that was up around 5-6% yesterday. But today, it was in the red, down around 1.5%, Prashant.
Okay, that's stock-specific action. In market opinion, we heard from Shane Oliver of AMP Capital, who says that the US markets, at least for now, seem to be heading into some sort of a correction territory. Adds that short-term, in the short term, the trend there is possibly down. Listen in.
I think we're now heading into correction territory, if not already there. Those list of worries, I think, will ultimately resolve themselves, but it will take some time to do that. We're also going through September. We're now into October. This period of the year is renowned for corrections. October can be a turnaround month. But the first half of October tends to be fairly weak. So my feeling is for the short term, the trend in the market is probably still down. The energy shortage is mainly political. I think that will go away under pressure. There's issues about inflation. Many of the issues around inflation are still a function of coronavirus.
Well, let's get into more market opinion now. Prateek Gupta, the CEO and co-head of institutional equities at Kotak Securities, said that Indian markets have outperformed other Asian markets. Listen into what he had to say.
Our market has actually been one of the best performing markets in the world. In fact, I was just looking at the numbers yesterday. India is now an outlier versus almost all emerging markets. We are up 27% year to date, whereas the MSCI EM index is actually down 3%. China is down 7%. Now, at this point, valuations have become an issue. In our conversations at